And before I turn this over to the Chancellor, I'd like to introduce a guest. We have got with us Dr. Cynthia McCarty. She's a member of the State Board of Education. Thank you for your attendance, Dr. McCarty. Appreciate you being here and observing. I'll turn it over to the Chancellor. And one thing, I think we'll have more relaxed rules here in the work session, but I would just ask that everybody just kind of be cognizant of time. And if you have an opinion to give, just keep it brief and questions brief too. But this is a time to get have as much transparency and communication with the staff and the Chancellor as possible, and be more informed as trustees. So, having said that, Chancellor.
And you probably have already figured it out, but when there's a little red circle around the bottom of your mic, it's off. Just push the button and it turns green, then the rest of the group can hear you. So if you would just, when you speak, if you would make sure that your microphone is on, that would be great. Just a few housekeeping items. This probably looks familiar. This is a document that we passed out probably the first time we met. There have been some revisions, and so this is an updated version of the fact book. So if you would just use this one to replace your others. Again, this is chock full of good information. Okay. What I think we all decided, and I think it was a very good idea, that we go back to a work session format during which, among other things, we'll consider items that you'll be voting on in September. So we'll be basically a month ahead, which will preclude the need for calls. And obviously you can always call if you have questions, but this will give us an idea to have an opportunity to have a robust conversation about any of these items and answer all of your questions in this format with my staff present. So what I'd like to do in each case, I'm going to call on the appropriate staff member just to give you a thumbnail sketch of each of the items. We have just 7 items that are under consideration for September, but 1 or 2 of them are pretty major items. So what we'll do is we'll begin with fiscal, and Jane, I think you're going to cover the Bevel State bonding, refunding, the budget question, and then the system office budget.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. The first item, as the Chancellor said, is a Bevel State refunding, bond refunding. They're actually requesting to refund their 2005 and 2007 bonds with a net present value savings of $645,000. And I will sort of follow your lead if you have questions about that. It's typical. This no additional funding is being requested. Normally these are scheduled to expire at the same time. Mark, are you in here? Mark Ellard from Bevel was here earlier, but I believe these are normally just scheduled to expire at the same time as the current bonds, so there would be no extension of time.
So the savings, though, would be $645,000 over the life of the...
That is correct. One of the bonds, the 2005 bond, is a current refunding, which means that they are callable at this time. And the 2007 bond is an advance refunding. They're not callable until 2017. So those funds will be placed in escrow until the time they're callable. Any interest that's due, and I have not talked with Mark about this, but any interest, normally I would think any interest that's due on the bonds until that time will be paid. But all of that has been taken into consideration. When you're looking at this $645,000, all of that has been taken into consideration. And still the savings is $645,000 over the life of the bonds.
If I might ask, are these 2 bond issues combined into one refinancing?
They are in a sense. There are actually 2. There's a 2015A and a 2015B, and the reason for that, I believe, is because we have a current, the 2015A is the 2005, and that's the current refunding, and the 2015B will be the advanced refunding.
So that would be the 07?
Correct.
Okay.
Any other questions on that one? The next two items are budgets, and these are the budgets for the system office and for the colleges, or the institutions, all the institutions. The system budget is projecting total revenues of almost $66 million, and those come from a variety of sources: adult education funds, ETF, the Education Trust Fund, the different appropriate line items from the Education Trust Fund. GED and PSL collect fees. That includes those fees. We actually have restitution as a revenue. That is, I'm not sure exactly of all the parties that are involved, but there have been lawsuits in the past, and we actually collect restitution from those lawsuits. And those are funds that can be used for the community college system as a whole. But those are just some of the fund sources that are part of our budget, of the system office budget. And as you'll notice, we budget all of our revenues. We had a couple of things to increase as far as employee benefits this year. The teacher's retirement went from, for Tier 1 employees, went from 11.71 to 11.94. That's effective October 1. And the employee's insurance increased from $825 to $850. Are there any questions on the system office budget?
I noticed there was a $1 million increase in the professional services line item.
What happened there, last year during the year, we had to increase that budget. So the budget that you're seeing, the original budget, was our original budget from last year. We compare apples to apples. We had to pay for software during the year. The state is changing its software, accounting software system, and all of the state agencies have to pay their fair share. So during the year, that increased because of that. That was a major portion of that. Also, under that one, account object code 800 would be any type of professional service. That would be legal, training, any employee training that's paid to an outside entity comes under that item. Our financial manager, Phil Dott's group, is paid from that 0800. So there are just several things that contributed to that. Are there any other questions on that budget? The second budget is for the community and technical colleges, ATN, and MMI. And if you notice this morning on on the allocations that you approved, you did not see an allocation for MMI or ATN, and that's because they're a separate line item and they have their own budgets. So that's not something that is mandated by the Act, so that's not something that you're required to approve. And their revenues are very similar to ours. Their largest, of course, is the ETF, with tuition and fees coming in right under that. And then, of course, they have grants, other grants, state grants, federal funds, student aid, federal grants. In fact, the PAVES grant that was mentioned this morning during one of the presentations, that's one of the grants that we have here at the department, and the colleges share, have that grant as well. The colleges also, they're on a different insurance. We're on, here at the department, we have CHIP, we have the state employees insurance, health insurance, but the colleges have PHIP. And their PHIP rates, even though our state employee rates went up, the PHIP rates remained stable at $780. But we're on the teacher's retirement here at the department, or here at the system office, and so are the institutions. They're on the same retirement system, and their rates went up the same as ours on the retirement. Are there any questions?
On the community technical college expenditure budget,
Mhm.
can you explain the mandatory transfers?
Yes. Those are, the colleges charge certain fees, facility renewal fees, special building fee, technology fees. The facility renewal fee is a mandatory transfer from unrestricted into the renewal and replacement of plant. So that would be a mandatory. Another mandatory would be a special building fee. Some of the colleges have a special, or most of the colleges that have debt have a special building fee, and that is mandatory. They have to transfer that fee to retirement of debt. Are there any other questions?
Would you explain the auxiliary enterprises as well?
Yes. That would be bookstores, cafeterias, dorms. I can't think of any others. Any of you presidents, does that more or less cover?
Majority of it, especially the revenue, things like that.
Any other questions? Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Jane.
You're welcome.
Okay, and then in the, under legal, we have a lease agreement, and we have a donation, and I'll call on David O'Brien to brief you on those two.
Good afternoon to you all. The first item is a request from Central Alabama Community College for the board to approve, subject to the approval of the chancellor and the chancellor's legal office, to enter into a 3-year renewable lease with Elite Fitness. This is an entity that has in the past operated a state-of-the-art fitness and health center on the campus, I believe in its gymnasium building. The request is that the Board of Trustees approve the proposed lease. It provides for the use by faculty, employees, administrators, and athletes and coaches of the fitness center. The proposed lease is attached that provides for a 3-year renewable term. The lease will generate rental in favor of the college in the amount of $1,000 per month.
On page 3, 7.1, that talks about indemnification and hold harmless,
Yes, sir.
on the insurance policy coming from them, are we named at the bottom of that policy as an additional cover of the policy?
It is contemplated under paragraph 6.1.
Okay.
When you say we named, are you talking about the college system? or
Yes,
the-
both. So I can't remember the exact, but I know it's indemnification. We're actually spelled out in the legal document on
I
it.
just noticed in the lease agreement, they
Yeah.
only specified the community college.
Yeah. But I guess my question is, does the board need to be, or the system need to be added as an additional insured on there?
That would be my recommendation.
Okay.
And are we notified, are we provided with a certificate of insurance? I don't see that in here, I may have overlooked.
We can certainly include that as a
On an
provision.
annual basis upon the renewal that the school or the system gets, basically the school would be the best because local level be provided with a certificate of insurance.
Right.
If they cancel the insurance within 30 days, we should be notified. That'd be a standard clause, I think.
Any other questions on that action item? Okay, let's move to the next one, which is a request by Shelton State Community College for the board's approval, subject to the chancellor and the chancellor's legal office's approval of the acceptance of a donation of 6 acres of property from the Demopolis Industrial Development Board located in the South Industrial Park of the city of Demopolis. I would point out that the donation would come with a reversionary interest in favor of the industrial board in the event the college ceases to provide services in the city of Demopolis. Shelton State currently offers non-credit training and credit courses to the public to include dual enrollment services to qualified high school students in the city and in the surrounding areas. The college presently offers 4 credit courses at the Demopolis Higher Education Center, which the college leases from the city. It also provides commercial truck driver training at a facility known as the New Era Plant Building in the city of Demopolis. What the college contemplates is moving the commercial truck driving training services to the property to be donated by the industrial board. Your material should include a June 24, 2015 letter of intent from the the Demopolis Industrial Training Board that sets out in general terms what the agreement will be. It is not intended that the letter of intent include all the terms, but just the very basic terms under which the agreement would be ultimately reached.
Have we gone through a due diligence period, or are we in one, or is there one to come, or?
Well, there's one to come. One issue would be the environmental study. We do have a copy of one in the materials that have been provided by the industrial board. That study, however, was done in 1996. It needs to be updated. The agreement would also require the city to extend the current road to this particular lot and the extension of utilities to the lot as well. You will also note in the letter of intent that the industrial board is to provide funds for the construction of a modular classroom and the asphalt top for the truck driving training.
I noticed on the survey, the Jackson Paper Company is next door. Is that still in operation?
That's my understanding. Yes, sir.
That's Newell Paper out of Meridian, Mississippi. It's their Alabama warehouse, and it's still in operation.
Is there a lot of truck traffic coming in, I guess?
Yes, a lot of truck traffic. There's 3 Foster Farms, corn dog producer, and some other entities in there. So, yes. This is on the very back side of the lot, and potentially the course will be built on the 6 acres back past everybody.
During the environmental assessment, will they look at air as well? I don't know if there are any issues with the mill.
No, there's no air issues, and TTL just recently did the core sample. Is Mike Fields here? Mike, would you address the core samples from TTL?
All the core samples have been done, the geotechnical has been done, it's come back to play. So that was the last process done. So it's, all the testing, the soil samples, core, drilling, and the, geotechnical survey has been complete. And we have a copy of that, so the property is there for claim.
And there was this survey says it didn't have benefit of a title opinion. I presume we would get one.
Yes, sir. That's in the, one of the contingencies of the letter of intent.
Okay.
Any other questions? Chancellor, you want me to move on to the executive?
Sure. Why don't we go ahead to the executive, those two items?
The first action item is from Faulkner State Community College requesting the board to approve its naming of the Performing Arts Pavilion stage on the Fairhope campus, the Halstead Amphitheater, in honor of Miss Adelie Halstead. Ms. Halstead has been a longtime contributor to the college. In fact, is the largest private donor to the college, with her donations exceeding $500,000. Her donations have been used to assist in funding the construction of the John L. Borum Center for Health and Natural Science on the Fairhope campus, which was constructed in 2010. Her donations have also assisted in purchasing equipment for the college's music program and in the construction of the Performing Arts Pavilion.
Chancellor, this is just a formality, but to this particular action item, but I'll take this time to comment. I think Susan's going to be in Fairhope this weekend. You need to take time to go. It's just a couple blocks from where you're staying in downtown Fairhope. This is going to be quite a facility. It's in the edge of downtown Fairhope, Performing Arts Center and amphitheater layout, and it's going to just be a venue for all sorts of just great events. I'm sure Mobile Symphony and the Baldwin Pops and other things, but I just think it's just really is going to complement the town and the and Faulkner State Community College, and it's just exciting to see that go up. And certainly appreciate this, and I think there have been several other private donations to this effort, probably the Arts Association and some other entities in the city of Fairhope.
Yeah, it's certainly worth going by and checking out.
Yeah.
They did a great job. Did a great job with that. I know Gary has been very excited about this. maybe, David, maybe it would be helpful, I don't want to put you on the spot, but can you maybe just summarize the guidelines for naming a facility? That'd be
It's a
something you
good
could-
idea.
In terms of the old policy?
Yeah, exactly.
Um,
What their various, when I say hoops, that's a little sterile, I know, but what hoops must you jump through in order to get a building named?
Well, under the old policy, it was an extraordinary, the first sentence of the old policy, that it had to be an extraordinary circumstance for the naming of a facility after an individual. The contributions of that individual, again, had to be extraordinary. The State Board of under the old policy, the board only discussed these issues in executive session, and it required a 4/5 vote for passage. With respect to individuals who were connected with the system, the board, or any college, they could not be, their name could not be used on a building until they had been separated from the system for at least 2 years, or in the event that they were deceased.
Are there any dollar amounts associated with the name, or not established?
No, there's not.
Any other questions? Because these don't happen often, but they will come from time to time for your approval. Great, okay.
The next item is Marion Military Institute's request to the Board of Trustees to approve the appointment of 2 individuals to their Board of Advisors to fill vacant positions for membership on that Board of Advisors. They have offered for your consideration 2 individuals, Ms. Leslie Sanders and Mr. William Cosby Jr. A summary of their biographical information is included in the rationale, along with the letter from Colonel Mollahan requesting this be an action item. These individuals are endorsed by the Board of Advisors and the President of the college. I would note for your guidance, under the statute, that the qualifications for individuals to be members of the Board of Advisors is the following. The board shall be composed of no more than 21 citizens of good standing who are alumni of the Institute, have been members of the United States Armed Services, or are persons of strong character who have the means, judgment, or influence to facilitate the growth and prestige of the Institute. Any questions?
Thank you, David.
Yes, sir.
Two other items I'd like to address. I want to follow up on the remediation piece that we were discussing earlier, and I'm going to put Cynthia on the spot here and ask if she would come and join us for a moment, because I think it would be, we've been talking a little bit, I think, about K-12's discussion and their upcoming work session on this issue, and I thought it might be helpful for the board just to hear a little bit from both Cynthia and Mary Scott about where kind of where K-12 is, and certainly we want to reaffirm the fact that we want to work together to solve this problem. There's no question about that. So if the two of you wouldn't mind maybe just sharing a little bit about what the State Board of Education has been discussing, I think that might be helpful.
Well, I think our goal is that no high school graduate would ever need remediation courses, developmental courses. And we know that right now about a third of our high school graduates will take either the community college system or the four-year system, will end up taking some developmental courses. And it is a destroyer of their confidence. Dr. Heinrich has done all sorts of research, and I think you will probably get this book.
You will. Shamefully, I'll give you one.
I thank you for the research that you've done. I've taken copious notes and lots of marks in the book itself. And what I think we forget sometimes is that when we have this high school graduate, he's so proud, he's so happy, or she, that they've just graduated, and then they're told that, oh no, you've got to take 098. You didn't score well enough on your math scores, and you got to do this. Well, I think sometimes what we forget is that many of these students, and Dr. Heinrich has the numbers, it's close to 50% of the students that take remedial classes or developmental classes never persist. They never stay through those classes. And so when they don't persist, we lose them forever. And so that is, in my mind, an extreme tragedy. And even those students who persist in those developmental classes, many of those students do not pass the class. I think in math it was 25% pass the remedial class, and those are the ones that persisted, that stayed through. So I think what I'm trying to express to you, and I do get passionate about it because these are our young people, and I want them to succeed. I want them to find high-paying careers that they are happy and they can thrive in. And how do I define success? Well, success in a community college system, to me, I think we have to be careful how we measure success. We know that some people come to the community college system and they are looking to pass a few classes to get a certain amount of knowledge, and then they'll get a career upgrade when they go back to their careers. And so to me, that's success. If we meet that need, that's success. We have other people that come to the community college system, and what they want is they want a certificate in something. Well, that's success. And then we have many others that want to get their associate's degree. Well, that's success, but they are all measures of success. But when we stop them at the gate with these remedial classes, and we know that close to half of them never even stay through till the end of those classes, we are losing so many of these students. Okay, so I hope I've expressed that there's a problem. Now, what can we do about it? Well, again, much research has been done on things we can do, and one is that we want to eliminate the deficit, the academic deficit that caused them to go into the remedial class in the first place. Well, to do that, we have to have a clearly defined target. We have to know in K-12, what do you want? How do you define college ready? How do we know? Well, now, and I'm so thrilled, this happened before I got on the board, but I'm so thrilled that now every high school junior in a public school in Alabama takes the ACT exam, every single one. And so now we have a measure their junior year of how they did on the ACT. And then many of you presidents, you will have standards by which how much they had to score in their math, in their reading, and their English on this in order to come in without taking any remedial classes. So they take the ACT their junior year. Well, I also did, at your suggestion and other suggestions, I looked around to see what other states are doing. and where are their successful programs. And there are many. I'll mention one that I found to be particularly interesting, and that was Kentucky. And I'm not saying we have to copy Kentucky. You know, we have our own students' needs to take into account, and we have brilliant people out there that can come up with a much better plan to meet their students' needs. So this is just a thought. But what they did is after their students took the ACT their junior year, then they look, of course, some of them, they're college ready. They scored a 30 on the ACT. So, okay, by golly, you're college ready, no remedial classes for you. But then what about the other ones? Well, they offered classes, transitional classes they call them, in their senior year. And so they could take these classes their senior year. They were voluntary. They didn't force them into them, but they offered them. And their primary target were the students who scored just below the cutoff. But what they found out is even those who scored really low got involved, and their pass rate, once they did these classes in their senior high school year, was 95 to 96%. Huge success. So then when they come to your schools, they are ready. They are prepared. They will achieve whatever their level of success might be. Again, the certificate, a couple of classes for their job, or their associate's degree, whatever that is, but they can jump right into those college credit courses. And think of all the money this saves them. We know that now many of them have to pay, they take out student loans. We know the average amount of student debt in Alabama for student loans is $28,000. That is a lot of money, and that's a huge burden for our young people as they go out into their careers. Let's do what we can to reduce that. Let's help our young people. I admire all that you're doing. I admire so much the research you did, and we've got some innovative programs. You've got some tremendous presidents out there. And so I think if we just kind of encourage and give them the flexibility and the freedom to do what they know that they should be doing and that they want to do, oh, they can do amazing things. And like Calhoun, I printed out this article. You can tell I wrote all over it. But they are doing fantastic things with Decatur City. Wallace State Hansville, I know you are. Many others have expressed the interest that they would love to try this too. So I would just ask for your consideration, and I so appreciate you allowing me to talk, and I probably talked more than you wanted me to. But, but I do. It's our young people. That's what we're talking about. And when we want a trained workforce, we have to give them a chance. And I think by taking some actions, we can do that. So thank you.
Well, and the model you described is a solid model. You know, we catch them before they graduate from high school and work together. Talking about K-12 and the two-year system, we're working together at that. And there are models. Several states are at that point, K-12 and the two-year system is working together to make sure that the students' needs are addressed, and that benefits everyone.
And there's some frustration on the K-12 side that I mentioned because those maps and those remediation rates that get released, they get attributed back more to on the K-12 side. But I think what the K-12 folks, what Cindy and I need to help this community with, and where we can really help with our leadership, is encouraging them to put aside frustrations and come to a place where we can have discussions together about, common definitions of general interests, and but there's obviously specialized interest requirements for mechatronics or our aerospace programs or pre-engineering. Those are going to change from school to
That's
school.
Different.
That's
yes.
a different deal, but maybe some commonality among general entrants. That would be a big lift right there if we could just get that piece hammered out. But there's some. There was a train rolling down the track on the K-12. I think we've kind of tried to get them to look and say, we need to slow this down just a little bit to let everybody have a chance to come together. And you mentioned that you'll have some of your staff at the K-12 meeting tomorrow, which will be really helpful, and we'll make sure that they get a good opportunity to speak. And then, from y'all's side, I think Cynthia and I really do understand what y'all face. I mean, you gotta get these students through. You're trying to get your students as completers. And we understand that. And so remediation, they do fall through the cracks, but what if they don't have the STRIDE program at Shelton State? You know, we gotta help them. We know they need help. And so we'll take that message back to K-12, and K-12 does have to own the quality piece. They really, really do. They have to own that. I think they understand that. I know they do, in fact. But I think if it's seen as the only thing I would have changed in this whole thing, I love this presentation, so many good pieces of information. The only thing that I would have changed is just right at the end, there was the success of developmental education is everyone's responsibility. The only thing I would have said is the success of students is everyone's responsibility. And so I think if we approach it that way, collaboratively, this could be a huge success story for our boards. Just a huge. I mean, 76% of the remediation happens between K-12 and our community colleges. So the systems that we both govern, this board, our K-12 board, we can solve this problem. I mean, we can at least take a good, hard swing at it.
No question.
Yeah.
No question about that.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
What was the rationale behind Kentucky choosing the 11th grade as the cutoff for giving their students the ACT test as a basis to determine whether or not they need development activity?
Well, I think.
Is there a rationale because to me that's too late?
Well, and it could be. I think that they feel like you've got your math classes that are going to be tested on the ACT by the time, and it's usually, I think, in the fall of the of that junior year. And so, and then it gives those students who want to take it again, it gives them time to do it, but they feel like they're prepared and mature enough to take it and see the reason behind it. But you're right, you could take it earlier than that.
But to your question, we think on the K-12 side, it's too late to do a lot of course correcting at that point too. So we have another suite of tests called ACT Aspire. And our ACT Aspire are vertically aligned to the ACT. They are predictive of your ACT score. So they start in the 3rd grade. So my 3rd grader takes the ACT Aspire. And when I sit down with his teacher, the teacher says, okay, Nathan is approaching ready, he's ready, or he's exceeding expectations as he's predicted the benchmark on the ACT. So we actually do, I think the heart of your question is, 11th grade's too late if you so we are trying to move that time frame back when we are looking at students and how they are projected to succeed or not, or guessing. Yeah.
That's my thought. The 11th grade is reactive.
Right.
We've got to be proactive. On the English side, you're right when you say math, you've got to be 10th or 11th grade to be able to test them adequately. But English and reading, 3rd and 4th grade, that's where we've got to be proactive to get them ready. So that we'll not need
Is that the term where I've heard age-appropriate ACT, where there's like 3 or 4 testing periods prior to the actual ACT, like 3rd, 4th grade, or 3rd, 4th, and 5th, 5th, 6th, 7th? I don't know where the break point is, but I've heard the terminology age-appropriate ACT. Is that the same thing?
Yeah, probably. There are a lot of testing services out there that are predictive of the ACT. But with testing, you want to do 2 things in K-12. You want to build vertically to a test that makes sense. The ACT is our quality exam. Now, people think of it as a graduation exam. It is not. It is a quality exam, but as a twofer, it's also the college entrance exam. So we thought that was a big deal. We built and you want your testing to align to your course of study. So you have horizontal alignment testing to your course of study. The vertical alignment piece is that your test that you offer, your standardized test that you offer in 3rd grade, your ACT prediction, at the age where they are, obviously in 3rd grade they're not taking the ACT, but you want that to vertically align to a test that makes sense. That's what we have now. And so what's happened is when a teacher sits down and says, Mr. Davis, your son is on track to make, or to benchmark on the ACT in mathematics, but in English, it doesn't look like he's quite there. We need to do some work there. What we wanted to do in K-12 is make those conversations meaningful. Because it used to be that we said, your son is in this strain-on and this quintile, and everybody went like this, and nobody understood the background. Nobody. Not the teacher, not the parents. So we've really tried to insert meaning into those conversations.
My son teaches in another state, and something I would ask the K through 12 board to look at, when you have teacher-parent conferences, make it mandatory. Because where he teaches, it is mandatory for the parents to show up. And if they don't show up, they're notified to show up at the superintendent or principal's office to go over these results rather than not caring. And if they don't show up the second time, their grades are withheld. So that way the parents cannot say, you didn't tell me, I didn't know about it. I would love for y'all to consider making it mandatory for parent-teacher conferences.
Something I don't know that we can see from Shelton State, maybe we can learn this, but an ROI on the investment that they've made in their program. I think all the other presidents would be, and I would be very interested in understanding that. I suspect it's significant in return the investment that they made. We were told that the investment was significant, but long term, I bet it pays for itself.
That's a great point. It's a great point. And I know we have those numbers, and you're right, it's amazing, but I can't quote them off the top of my head.
It's part of the success story.
It is.
So why not duplicate it?
Yep.
Yes, but if we take the parts of Stride.
SOAR.
I'm sorry. If we take the parts of SOAR, the navigator pieces, keep those just like they are.
Yes.
But move the remediation coursework as much as we can to pre-graduation from high school. And that's kind of what I don't know exactly what that looks like. That would seem to be something that we could achieve to keep the pieces of it that are so fun, that are so best.
And there are some states that do exactly that. They're literally the K-12 and the two-year system working together to do exactly that. So yeah, I think that would be a complicated process. I mean, it wouldn't be real easy to implement, but it's certainly doable.
Well, and we'll always have some need, I think, for those developmental courses. You may have somebody, like I mentioned to the Chancellor earlier, you may have somebody that's 40 years old that has been working construction and decides, look, I'm capable. I want some business skills, some accounting skills, because I want to run my own business now. I'm tired of working for somebody else. And so they come back, and the last time they had math was 22 years ago. So that person probably is a good fit for some type of developmental course. But I love, the program that you have a lot of mentoring, advisement. Is it advisors on steroids? I think you call them.
Yes.
That you counsel them and a cheerleader almost for them. And so I think we'll always have a need for developmental courses. It's just we want to reduce the need for those that are recent high school graduates.
Yes. Exactly.
Is there anything that's in your eye, or, we'll hang around for as long as y'all want, but if there's anything that y'all can do to help us represent you better tomorrow at the K-12 meeting as we talk about these things, we'll hang around for as long as you need, but let us know, because one thing that will not work is if we get kind of logged in on this. So if there's stuff that y'all can help us with, I'll stay as long as anybody.
It's great. That would be good, because I know that our presidents have very strong opinions on these things, as they should. So
one thing I have to say, Mary Scott, is that I wouldn't want K-12 to just come up with their own standard, whether it's a C in a subject, and that's considered college ready, because a C at one high school, I'm not going to mention any names, is not the same as a C at another high school. C average. So that's a concern to me, that any type of set standard like that would qualify, say they would be set as, they would say that they're college ready, to me, just would not be
So in your mind, the ACT would be the better tool?
something like that.
Yeah.
I think
Some
something like that,
nationally
because
normed.
Something that's
Well, the good news is we have it.
We have it,
Right.
that's right.
So that's an effective, you're right.
That's right. And maybe that other hasn't been discussed, but if it has, I just think it's a non-starter with us. We need something that the system is receiving ready students that are prepared, if they're not to go through some sort of remedial class. They need to definitely get ready. And it's a two-way street to some degree, but the main part, it starts their preparation in K-12.
What is the last grade, they say, for ACT we have ACT Aspire in 3rd through 10th, and then there's another product, or 3rd through 8th, and there's another product in 9th and 10th. And
Is it the plan?
yes, I think so. But they're all vertically aligned to the ACT, which is in the junior year. Most high schools in the state, they have ACT prep.
Can you turn your,
Yeah.
Do most high schools offer ACT prep courses at the junior level?
No, that because we now have new standards, the college and career ready standards, and because we'll be talking about science standards tomorrow, really the entire K-12 is geared towards being able to get to this test and at least having been exposed to everything that you're going to see. Now, are there students who are going to take prep courses on their own because they want to blow away the test? And yeah, there probably will, and students have taken it multiple times. But now, instead of teaching to the test, we're just doing better education in general. And ideally, that will prepare students for what they see. You can't know how many times, or maybe you do, that students have done everything we've asked them to do in K-12, everything, and they take that test and they see stuff that they have never seen before. That isn't acceptable, and we know that on the K-12 side, and we own that. So we've got to be better, and we know it, but the prep courses, there probably is some prep, but we're really trying to get away from teaching to the test. We're trying to just, the day that you take the test, you sit down and you take the test.
And my previous question about the vertical test is that if you can look at probably 9th grade, I would think would be the good telltale sign, as opposed to 11th, as to,
For mathematics.
wow, yeah.
Now
Getting
again,
ready.
they are testing every year, and it is predictive of, and I think it's actually ACT that gave us the time frame which is appropriate for students to take it. Now, there are lots of 9th and 10th graders out there that go and pay to take the test. There are practice tests, and they'll go
On their own.
Yes, on their own, yeah. But ACT is really, they're the ones that give us the time frame and say this is an ideal time. This is the ideal time when the test is designed to be effective. Does that make sense?
And you also do that too, so the districts can benchmark themselves. So
Yeah, exactly right,
everybody's
Blake.
doing the same. The comparisons of the numbers are the same.
Just a question that you probably answer. If an individual is scoring below grade level or below whatever the benchmark is there something done to try to bring them up to speed, or is that okay? Good.
Absolutely. And one of the challenges has been the first year that we did Aspire and teachers got the data back. One thing that we identified as a problem is that they didn't really know what to do with it yet. They didn't quite know what it meant. This year, the second year, that got a little bit better. They were able to get down to the elements and see, okay, it was, deficient in similes, or it was, they could get down to the elemental level of what was the deficiency. So that's the advent of tech in testing, and our ability to disaggregate data and study it and then give teachers products that can help them to understand their practice. That's, if we can do that effectively, and with the advent of the use of technology and supercomputing to make that effective, you know, that's got some potential. That's got some potential to finally give y'all the students that you really need. But I can take, listen, we'll take that criticism that it can't be the A, B, or C, because there's going to be some variance for a while. There is. But we'll take that back as a suggestion that the ACT is a better measure. That's very understandable.
Very good. Okay. Well, I know we will continue to discuss this, but I appreciate that feedback. I have one more item that I think you're all well aware of the fact that we just finished up one special session, and that a couple of months ago we finished up the regular session, and there are a lot of interesting things going on in the legislature, and so I've asked Jimmy Baker, who oversees government affairs, among other things, for us, just to give you kind of a rundown on what he saw going on, because he spends a great deal of time over there, what he saw going on during this special session. And I guess I'd ask him to look into his crystal ball as well, and maybe he can tell us how this is all going to end.
Jimmy, please don't use the rule open, honest, and complete communication.
I've been around too long to do that.
Okay, good.
It's okay, I would just stand over here. I would, on this side, I choose to sit over here next time. Rotate. Well, we need to move that over here, a little over this way. Right. It's interesting listening and talking about what you're trying to do to deal with the development of education, because I, in the former life, happened to be a finance director who happened to have the responsibility to try to put together a budget. And so you have to look at everything across the board. The big issue we're facing in the state today is the inability to appropriately fund Medicaid. We have a population of people, I'm just going to refer to the legislature as a whole, as a population, that contains some members who really and truly, and I hate to acknowledge this, are not concerned about whether we can properly fund Medicaid. They really aren't. And let's just see what happens if we don't fund it appropriately. We're sitting here talking about the issue of education. Health is a huge issue in education. And there's a high correlation between low-performing students and students who come to school that are not properly fed or taken care of health-wise. And you can be damning to the population of parents who don't take care of their kids, but the kid has no ability to deal with it. So I would hate, I would just, I sound like I'm an advocate for Medicaid, and I am. But we don't have to balance it out of education funding. This state needs to realize it is important enough to deliver those services, and we still are not funding education at the level that we need to be funded. We can do that if we get a commitment to do that on the part of the population. Now, I know there are people who came to the legislative body. You don't have to say this.
No, please, you have at it.
And they came here with this pledge: no new taxes, regardless of what. We're not going to pass any more taxes. And I understand the politics. It's pretty easy politics to say. But with a little bit of effort, there could be a balanced budget. And if you're the governor, or if you're the president pro tem of the Senate, or the Speaker of the House, or the chairman of the budget committees, you have to be concerned about the whole spectrum. You can't just look at one issue. Now, they started talking about a few possible revenue measures. And Senator Ross is sitting back there measuring every word I say. But if I misrepresent something, you can take it up to Mike Fields. But there was talk of a Coke tax or bottle tax, soft drink tax. How many of you know what you paid for the last soft drink you bought? You don't know. Because it varies from one end of the spectrum to another. Same way with a bottle of water. I think that would be fairly unnoticeable. I'm not advocating anything. I'm just trying to put the picture out there. There was talk of, look, we could not allow the FICA tax to be an item of deduction on the income tax, and that would generate significant revenue. Well, no go on that. And we go down the list. There's several others. Cigarette tax. Everybody you thought would have been willing to tax a cigarette. But no, not that. It wasn't that they were opposed to the cigarette tax. They were just opposed to a tax of any kind, of any measure. And it seemed to be a popular thing to sit down. Well, but I happen to represent education. I think all of this is important in the arena of education. But there is a way, if everybody would be reasonable, and I think we could all be reasonable, to approach resolving the problems. Now, Medicaid's in dire straits. I don't care if it's funded at the level funding situation that it is today, or if it's not. They've been working for 3-4 years on developing a new method of managing Medicaid and try to make it more responsible so that it's not abused at a significant level. That, unless there's some additional funding, that's going out the window. I hate to say that, but that's where it's headed, unless there's some additional funding. But again, if you talk to me about taking the use tax out of the education trust fund and transfer that over to the general fund and leave the debt of that use tax with the education fund and not replace that money in the education fund, I'm opposed to that. Senator, you can go tell everybody I said that. We are opposed to that as a group of people. I do not think that's a solution to the problems of this state, because we continue to play games. If you think this year's bad, you just wait till next year. Unless somebody is bold enough to step up to the plate. I got to go to the governor's office tomorrow. So I listen to this. But if somebody doesn't step up to the plate and make a bold and serious effort to solve the problem at some reasonable level, and looking down the road, we're going to be fighting this battle every year. We've been fighting it a long time. We did a lot of game play. Hospitals were supported. I'm attending a meeting tomorrow morning in the governor's office. We'll have Medicaid, we'll have Alaha, we'll have pharmacy, and we'll have education funds. I don't know who else will be there, but they are expecting to try to come up with some method of funding. I've been in those meetings already. There's a general sense by the people that we're willing to work toward a solution, but we're not willing in education to carry the load by ourselves. Now, we certainly need to look at passing legislation on the rolling reserve, and I'm not going to waste much time talking about what happened in the session. I don't even know everything that happened, except I do know this. There are a lot of ill feelings between and among the members today that we don't need to let that dominate the session. We need to amend the rolling reserve. It was, quite frankly, I don't want to say an ill-conceived idea. I have been an advocate for a long time of maintaining a reserve instead of appropriating at least as much as you can project, or more if you get by with it. And we've done some of that. But I do believe if we could simply deal with a small part of the use tax, if we could backfill that with some tax, and this is not a new or novel idea, Senator, but this has been around from day one, and amend the rolling reserve tax, education could make some serious progress in terms of being funded. But anything short of that, there's no way we can allow. And I want to say, and I'll say it to you later, our presidents have gone to bat for this and have performed like a super job in dealing with their legislators. But I don't know where it's going. Chancellor asked me to talk about that. However, I think I probably know about as much as where it's going as anybody else at this point. And that's the confusing part of the issue. I've not heard any injection of new or novel ideas. I've heard a lot of discussions about some of the old talk that's going on for the entire regular session and the last session. But we're going to be in there pushing, and we'll keep you posted and trying to make sure that Medicaid is funded. I think we have to be responsible citizens and support that proposition. It may not be funded at a super level, but enough to provide the basic services. Because if we go without providing health care to the kids, we're all going to suffer. And education community in particular. So we're going to be an advocate of protecting the education funds, but we're going to be an advocate at the same time of supporting some things that would help solve the continuous problem of funding Medicaid. I'll be happy to respond to any questions, but I've already told you I don't know.
Any questions for Jimmy?
But I do think we've had serious conversations about how important appropriate funding of health care is. I just think we can't afford not to be responsible for the health care.
What happens if they don't pass a budget?
Well, there'll be a lot of folks on furlough and a lot of services not delivered. Really would be. And I have enough faith in the legislative body to believe that there will be a budget passed so there can be operations. It may be kicking, what do I say, the can down the road, and it may not even be kicking it a whole year down the road. It may be a part of it. But at some point, there's going to have to be a session where it's supposed to deal with reality. Now, you roam that hall just like I do, and Mike Bill probably knows more than either of us.
I make a prediction that before the first Alabama football game or the first Auburn football game, we will have a budget.
Roll Tide.
War Eagle.
Unless there's some questions, that's not much of a summary, but we'll keep posted.
No, it's good. It's very helpful. Great. Thank you, Jimmy.
Chancellor, one thing in relation to this, a little bit different, but Dr. McCarty already hit on it. A lot of states are funding college systems based on performance, and they're getting grades on how they graduate and complete. And you began to define what is success, because we have so many people that come to our system that aren't interested in graduating for very specific reasons. I have employees that I send to the system for specific training that are not pursuing a degree. And we already have legislators that are already talking about this. They're studying it, looking at other states already. I've already been contacted by some. So, we have to be proactive in defining what is success in every level and how we're going to be graded and what are the benchmarks. It's not graduation.
That's correct.
Not for this system.
Exactly.
So we've got to be ready for that.
And I think you make such a good point, because you're right, particularly for the community college system, that just doesn't make sense. And you said it well. But we can give you example after example after example of individuals who did take five or six courses, and their salary went up 2/3 or whatever, and that should be considered success.
Right.
So, but that is on us to do a better job defining it. That's the end of my list.
I would just add that by no means is this work session the end of review of these items for the next meeting. Feel free to call staff and ask any questions that may come to mind over the next few weeks. And I think the Chancellor has a book for everyone.
And a test tomorrow.
and then one other thing, Mary Scott, one other thing that you can take in K-12, I'm going to speak for myself. I have complete confidence in the Chancellor, in the presidents, and in the staff, and that in the way they're approaching this remediation and rate, and they have our complete confidence. So take that for what it's worth.
Mr. Chairman, if I might. To the board members, I passed out a document for you to look over. All of the presidents have seen them because they have to sign them for funding request. It's the application for workforce development funding. And the second top of it, it says brief discussion of project. Well, when you're asking for $400,000, $600,000, I need more than a brief description of project. And if you cut over about 3 pages, you will see a project budget. I would like for our committee that was formed today to work with the Chancellor's office to redefine this and take it further. So as part of open, honest, and complete communication, this will be the first project that this committee takes on.
Great. Sounds good. Sounds very good. Okay. Anything else from trustees? Chancellor?
I would just tell the presidents, we'll meet upstairs on the 5th floor in the boardroom right after, so I'll just meet you up there in a few minutes.
Okay, that's it. Thanks again for everybody's time, and we stand adjourned.
Thank you.